Hello everyone and welcome to the next episode of the Living Health Expert Interview Series. Today we are going to continue the conversation that we started last time with Paul Baratiero from Synergy Science and Echo Water on the topic of water from the consumer perspective. And what I really want to get to today is uncover and clarify a few myths that are going on in the alkaline water industry about alkaline water being so good for you, removing acid or neutralizing acid in your body, and so on. So we will look at the most common ones, about 11 of them, and see what the truth is. Now, the reason why I chose this topic today is because I was at the beginning of my journey with water about 4 years ago. And when I was at that stage, I was looking for more information. Certain things were said to me by other marketers of water products. And what was happening is I was passing on information that I didn't really know where it was coming from. So as soon as I started asking those questions, how's that possible? How does that actually work? What's behind that claim that you're saying? I discovered that a lot of those things that I was told were not true. So what I'm really hoping to achieve today is to give you better information, better education, and to empower you to make more informed decisions. I hope you enjoyed today's interview, and I'll see you next time. Hello, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Very well. Welcome back. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Fantastic. Today I want to speak to you about or ask questions about the most common myths in the ionization industry about alkaline water. I know there's quite a huge amount of information online and it's not always accurate for whatever reason. Sometimes people have the best intentions, but they pass on information that may not be necessarily checked or correct. Sometimes, I don't know, there may be other reasons for it as well. But I suppose what I'd like to start with today is asking about the basic, some of the basic terms that will help us really in uncovering the truth, let's say. So what actually is alkaline water? What is alkaline and ionized water to start with?
Alkaline water is based on the pH of the water. So when we say alkaline, you're simply referring to the pH being higher than 7. 7 is neutral. The pH scale is 0 to 14. Anything from 0 to 6, let's say, will be considered acid. And then from 7 and above up to 14 will be considered alkaline.
What about the human body? A lot of the time we hear, in terms of the alkaline diet, for example, we hear that the body is slightly alkaline. Now, from what I know is the blood actually is very slightly alkaline, 7.43 or so, but other tissues in the body may not be. Could you expand on that?
It's kind of false information when people say, a lot of people, and it's because it's been said so many times over the last, 15 years, let's say, people will say, oh, if your body gets acid, then you get sick. If your body's alkaline, then you're healthy. And it's completely false information. The reality is, as you said, the blood has a very narrow pH range. So 7.35 to 7.45 is the typical range of blood. And if you go outside of those two ranges, high or low, then you start to have significant problems and the individual can go into shock. So the body, in understanding how critical that is for the body, we know that when things like that are critical to the body will fight till death to keep something in that range. So if the blood pH is 7.35 to 7.45, we know that we're not going to do much to change that if it's mission critical or it's so critical to the body for it to be alive. So it's kind of a myth that you can eat or drink things that are going to greatly adjust the pH of the blood. Really, it's carbonic acid. Through utilizing breath, it's the carbonic acid that is produced that changes pH in the blood. And so you could literally take one more breath per minute and do more to increase pH of the blood, anything you'll eat or drink. The other thing we hear about that is a big myth is they say there's alkaline diets. Well, I have a little bit of fun with that when I meet with people that are naturopaths or people that are sharing this information but have never really taken the time to study it. I'll say, an alkaline diet, that's interesting. What are you referring to? And they'll say, oh, eating vegetables. And I'm like, there's no vegetables that are alkaline. They're all acid, pH. And they say, oh, no, like a cucumber. And I'll say, no, a cucumber is like 5.5 pH. So that would be acid. Oh, what, really? And so I'll start asking them, well, give me another one. Give me another one. And when you look at the pH of fruits and vegetables, they are in the acid. They are lower than 7 pH. So, which makes sense, because if you had things that were higher pH, they would actually not have much protection against destruction, from outside pests or what have you. So we need to understand that if you don't want your vegetables going rotten very quickly, you got to have them be in the acid range. We also understand that when a lot of people say your body is alkaline, every single organ, every single system, every single part of the body is a different pH based on the performance or the thing that it's doing. Like the stomach is highly acid. Stomach bile is 1.5 pH. So you couldn't get much lower than that if the scale ends at 0. So we also know that the stomach environment, once you add bile and a little bit of other what's called gastric juices and different things, you end up with a pH of 4 in the stomach region. So that would definitely not be alkaline. That would be acid. And as we go throughout the entire body and we start looking at organs and systems and what have you, glands, and even down to a cellular perspective, there's something like 13 different parts of a cell, and all of them have different pHs. Mitochondria has a different pH than the cell membrane, for instance. So they're all different pHs. So I always ask people, you're talking about an alkaline body, what part of the body? Because it's all different pH. And so what we need to understand is that pH is not where the focus needs to be. It needs to be completely different, because a lot of these people quote supposedly Otto Warburg saying that cancer
that was actually my next question. I thank you for the detailed explanation. It's much more complex than people make it. People make it very simple, but it's much more complex, and it's not. It's just oversimplified basically. And you mentioned Warburg. A lot of the time we hear the statement that the root cause of cancer is too much acidity. How does it actually work? Because I know that statement isn't true. But that he got a Nobel Prize, and what did he actually get the Nobel Prize for? And what did he study?
Well, okay, so he did study cancer. He did study cells. He also studied oxygenation. So let's go back a little bit on ATP production 101, right? So we have mitochondria in our cells, and mitochondria produces ATP or energy for our body to function. And the way that this happens in a human cell is we take in oxygen to make fuel, right? So we take in oxygen and release. Well, what's interesting is in a cancer cell, and what Otto Warburg said, cancer can thrive in an oxygen-rich environment and an oxygen-poor environment. And what he was really saying is cancer does not get energy from oxygen. That's what he proved. That's what he was able to find. And unfortunately, people only quote half of that, saying that, cancer can only exist, in certain states. But what he actually said was oxygen-rich or oxygen-poor environment, cancer can thrive. So you would ask, okay, wait a minute, that makes no sense. If you and I were in an oxygen poor environment, we would not do well, versus an oxygen rich environment, we would have plenty of oxygen to breathe. What he was really teaching, and something that is widely known, anyone who is in the cancer industry or has dealt with cancer cells, they don't use oxygen for fuel. They use what's called glycolysis. And what that means is cancer thrives on sugar, and not natural sugars, unnatural man-made sugars. So this is where cancer gets its fuel, is glycolysis, or breaking down sugar. So really what we should all be talking about is get into a sugar poor environment, and then cancer will not thrive. So we need to lower the false sugars, the man-made sugars, the fake sugars, things like this. If we really want to have cancer suffering, then we need to change our diet from that perspective to get into to not facilitate glycolysis with cancer cells. But it has nothing to do with pH, because actually when you study a cancer cell, the cancer cell thrives in alkalosis. So the higher the pH, the cancer cells thrive. So it's just all messed up. When we talk about pH or we focus on pH, we very quickly will go past truth, and we will not be supporting science. So we need to be careful, and we need to focus on truth. So
what you're saying basically also is that alkaline water has nothing to do with cancer, reducing cancer or helping cancer thrive. It's a completely separate phenomenon. Would that be correct?
Right. So
what I'm trying to say is it will not have an effect from that standpoint, from purely having above pH 7. It will not really have any effect on the cell as such.
Right. Just drink. Yes. If we completely sequester water that is a higher than 7 pH, not taking any other principle of the water in effect, just the fact that it's a higher pH, yes, it will have little to no effect on a cancer cell of any kind, because by the time that water gets to the cell, it's gone through the stomach, buffered the pH, it's gone through the duodenum, which is pancreatic juice, and then it goes into the small intestine, and then it absorbs through the small intestine. By the time it goes through the interstitial system and into the cells, you've completely changed the water anyway. So just thinking that we're drinking a higher pH that has very little buffering capacity to begin with into the stomach, and thinking it gets through the stomach and the hydrochloric acid and all, I mean, it's crazy to think that, actually.
Thank you for that explanation. That was very good.